we got chatting. We started talking about struggles with mental health. Both of us, within a half-hour conversation, were like bearing each other's souls, and we were crying.
We almost have to tell the men of the church that you need to go make a friend, if not for the social benefits as an insurance policy.
You have a unique gift of waking people up out of NPC mode.
And now let us reason together.
Welcome back to Salty Saints. My name is Hayden Holm. This is my brother Tanner. And today we are joined by the man, the myth, the ministering brother, Josh Connor, who is here to give us some more information on how we might be able to shake up ministering efforts. When it comes to organic ministering, I don't think I've ever met anyone as good as Josh. And so we've got you here today. Why don't you give us a little bit of background on some of your callings, where you're at right now, your ward, and then we'll get into your formula.
So Hayden and I were in the same ward, I don't know, a year ago, however long it's been. Too long ago. I'm currently the second counselor in the bishopric in our ward. Yeah, about it.
All right.
I like running. Yeah.
You like running too. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess we're going to get into that a little bit too.
That's right.
Yeah.
5 kids, craziness all the time.
I recognize those bags under your eyes. You're in good company. Yeah. Tanner and I, we're right there
exhausted.
with you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great.
Awesome. So talk to us a little bit about your method for ministering. So, because I remember that you were always just extending invitations to different people, always doing crazy things, fun things.
Absolutely.
So let's get into it.
I guess to kind of rewind a little bit, everybody loves ministering, home teaching back then in the singles ward, especially, if you got some sisters in there, wow, 100%. You don't even need to ask us, right? Like we're there. Then you get married and, you get your assignments. And there was I would always be really super spot on with ministering in our married student ward that we had.
Sure.
But I found a pattern. I had 3 of the families, no joke, within a year of me home teaching them, they got a divorce. And so I'm just like, am I causing
You're
this?
cursed.
What is happening? I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah.
I feel awful. And this is, I don't know, is this shaking my testimony that I'm kind of the angel of doom, that I go and I, home teach someone, and then, the family's falls apart and everything. So anyways, that's that part of it. I love getting an invitation to something, anything. I think this started even as a kid, that I would get some sort of an invitation to go do something with someone. And I'm like, even if you can't go, it feels good that someone else thought about you, that, hey, we're going to go do this thing. Come with us. And so I've liked to incorporate some of that into ministering efforts of over the weekend, we wound up going to our cabin. But before we went, I was like, you know what? Hey, the cabin's in good enough shape now. The water's running. Hey, let's invite a family. So I threw out an invite to a whole bunch of people and basically just said, you want to come up with your family, come up for the morning, come up for spend the night the next day, and just kind of threw it out there. So.
How does your wife keep up with that? Because with 5 kids, that might be. I'm guessing that's kind of tough.
It's a lot, but I don't know if you guys have noticed this. It also can add to the peace of the home. Like if you're driving in your car and there's a mosh pit in the back seat, and you're just like, everybody stop, okay? If there's an outsider, if grandma's there, if the friend is there,
totally.
Usually there's more peace. And so part of it's this selfish little thing that I'm like, if we're going on this little trip, this outing, this something, and we have the outsider, the kids are better behaved. So
totally. I mean,
so I think
that's what happened on my mission. Yeah. There were so many families down there that were like, you better listen to the missionaries or they're going to hit you. You got to watch out, and so, so we always kind of had that reputation. The kids were always like, oh no, the missionaries, we're like, but no, gotcha. I get that. Totally get that.
Absolutely.
Well, that's awesome.
You bet. You bet.
So when it comes to creating these activities, you're always doing something. You're creating activities. I feel like you had a ton of like wild activities going on, and I think that's part of the running group that you were a part of.
Yeah.
Where you're like, eat a pizza and run 10 miles around a roundabout or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Could you explain a little bit of that? Because I feel like there's an element from that running group that we might be able to use in ministering efforts in an organic way.
So we have this running group, cult, club, whatever you want to call it, of like-minded individuals that we like doing crazy running stuff. I think kind of to make running a little bit more entertaining, a little bit more, I don't know, challenging. And like one of the times we had a competition of who could run around the most. Like you'd get a baseball field, softball field, and had a competition of how many times you could run around that field, and the most time around it won. So we did, like, it was just branch out. Whoever wins gets, $1 or something like that. So we go out there. I started at midnight or something like that, ran around. I got like 25 miles around one of the things. We had one of the guys get like 32 miles of just running base to base to base around the field. Just kind of crazy ideas. Some of them are eating challenges, like the one Hayden was talking about. It's called the Most Bestest 10K. And you run a 10K, you eat an entire Most Bestest pizza, and then you finish it off with another 10K. And if you do throw up, you're disqualified. It's like you didn't even eat the pizza. I am terrible at the eating ones. Those are the worst. I can't do it. I can't do it.
I think you're not alone in that.
Yeah. But we're always, there's, to outside non-runners, we had one that was the cheeseburger challenge. So it was kind of the tapered down one, but it was eat a cheeseburger, take a lap, eat a cheeseburger, take a lap, fastest time wins. That was a while ago, but you just kind of come up with strange ideas that you're kind of like, anybody want to join me? And lo and behold, there's always somebody to jump on, and, a group of 10 to 15 people that are like, yeah, let's do it. Come on. So like-minded individuals.
Do you just announce it at an Elders Quorum, or do you is it like an individual invitation?
So
that you
this
send out
one's
to people,
like a closed group, but then like if you want someone into that group, it could be, hey, I think this guy's deranged enough to want to be a part of us. So let's reach out. Come on in. And then he joins, or they join, him or her joins the group, and, kind of an invite only. We got to vouch for those people. So
totally. So how do you,
I did.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you got it. There's some vetting process, but it's been really fun over the years. It's just kind of evolved. There's point system, and it's changed, but it's always been, it's something like in the month of July here in St. George, it's like 7,000 degrees always. And we've had in the past what we called Trip Olympics. So it was our running club during the month. You have all these crazy challenges, individual little things. And it kind of is like, well, yeah, that was miserable, but it did get me out of the house when I would have been inside, been completely comfortable with just like sitting down and watching TV or something, just other random, like how far can you jump rope? And you can't take more than 2 steps without swinging the jump rope. And so it really sounds ridiculous, but once you actually start going, you're like, wow, I did a half a mile. I am beat, but we're going to keep going. And plus, you look like a fool to everyone else who's watching. Your neighbors see some guy, doing that. You're like, hey, it's part of a challenge here. Just ease up. Or like, how far can you run with the opposite pairs of shoes, so the right's on the right, left's on the left, and you just go, and they have to be different types of shoes. So you got one of one shoe, one of the other, and then you switch them and you do that.
So what I'm taking from this is like you're reliving your scout camp experiences. It's just like, all right, how do I just like make a lot of really bad decisions in a really physical way?
Yeah. It's just, once you have the wrong friends that just steer you down the wrong paths, it just kind of goes from there. Choose your friends wisely.
That's
What
right.
interests me,
Oh.
because you and Hayden have a relationship, and this is the first time I've met you. You come off immediately as someone who's very high energy, which is awesome. Like you have, and
Yeah.
I feel like your social battery must be comparable to like a Cybertruck's battery. Seems like you're a very social person,
That's
right? Like you got
hilarious.
a
I am,
big,
yeah.
like I can barely
I
make
do.
it through 2 hours of church before I'm like, I don't want to see another person for a month, you know? So what are your thoughts on like, how can the men of the ward like expand their social battery? Because I feel like that's an issue with men.
Yeah. So, well, I gotta rewind a little bit and talk about how I met Hayden. So
Yeah,
Hayden,
go for it.
and it kind of explains some of that. So Hayden comes into the ward and he gives his talk. First of all, I can't remember what was said, but I just remember, dude, this guy's fantastic. This is such a good talk. Like it was entertaining.
I'm blushing.
It was hilarious. It was, yeah, absolutely. It was, it was wonderful. Like it was so good. And then the part that I was like, this guy's my new best friend. He said, I am an indoor enthusiast. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? An indoor? He's like, I love all things TV, video games, chess. Basically, I'm an indoor enthusiast. And it was like he was calling his beta self out. And I was like, this is possibly the coolest guy I've ever heard of, ever met, ever heard talked, ever,
honesty.
ever.
Yeah.
This is wonderful, because typically it's the opposite. It's yesterday I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and finished it off with Everest in the evening. It's just, but he kind of pulled it down to a relatable level that I'm like, he's fantastic. He's wonderful. And then he said something about like my half marathon or something like that I'm like, oh, okay, cool. There's a combined or a common interest. So maybe I can get to know this individual here. So I like the last podcast that you did. We'll put a link up here.
Yeah, we'll get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That you mentioned that study of how men and women differ in basically their bonding, that women are okay. They can go to lunch and, they're absolutely fine. Like they are bonded. They sit down and just beep, 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 beep. And like, they're fine. And I think us men need movement. We need something like, well, for instance here. So a couple of episodes ago, we had Justin Keat on there. When I was called into the bishopric like a month ago, because he's the other counselor in our ward, I said, hey, Justin, do you want to go rucking? And rucking is like, it's hiking with a pack on, right? So him and I both got a pack on, and I'm just like, I need some training here. So instead of us sitting down toe to toe, looking deep into each other's eyes, having this training or this whatever, we were moving, we were going. So we're up in the hills and we're going everywhere as he's explaining, here's your responsibilities. Here's kind of how this works. Here's what to look out for. Like he gave me this like 45-minute training that it wouldn't have been the same if it was.
So you're talking like bishopric training.
Sitting down.
So he was giving
absolutely.
You bishopric training.
He was giving
and it
me
wasn't
bishopric
like
training.
Holding hands, eyes to eyes over some like Cafe Rio or something like that. Yeah.
If it was, in the clerk's office, just sitting knee to knee there, it wouldn't have been the same. It wouldn't have the same effect. I think movement's important. But as far as I've been thinking about this, as far as other men in the ward maybe reaching out or accepting an invitation, I think it's really important to just, I don't know, I think keep your eye open, and maybe there's a shared interest with that person or that group. And I think it can start out as something as simple as, hey, you know what? Let's do a card game. We've done this in our ward a couple of times where it's just two different couples. Hey, let's invite somebody over here to do something, to play Uno at the Uno tournament. Yay. And you invite them, you come over, you're getting to know them to do whatever it is. And it might take a couple of invitations. Yeah, we're busy. And I get it too, that there's plenty out there that they're so introverted. They are not interested whatsoever. And they will never, ever, ever say yes to an invitation of something. They're
Right.
just not. That's just not how it works. So throwing out an invitation is always good. But plus, like if I said, hey, Hayden, I'm going to the temple, gonna grab the 8:30 session tomorrow. Interested? Nope, I'm busy. Great. That's fine, but at least I was thinking about you, and it was an opportunity to go. So I think
I see.
just
Yeah.
reaching out, or just throwing something out there of, you want to do this with me, or I've
I
never
like that.
seen
I really like
this
that. So
show or
instead of
something. So-
like getting with them and saying like, hey, how would you like to be ministered to? And then them saying like, well, monthly visits are great. And then just sending them like a monthly cadence or something like that. You're just saying, maybe you just send out invites, like, hey, there's a pickleball game going on. Do you want to come play? Or, yeah, no, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We'll catch you next time. Hey, I'm going to the temple. Do you want to come with me? Or, hey, I'm
Yeah.
going to go out to eat. And maybe you do hold hands and you stare deeply into each other's eyes if that's what they
If
want,
that works,
But
great.
yeah,
That's
if
wonderful.
that whatever turns your crank. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that you taught me in our ward when you were in the Elders Quorum of what does ministering look like to you, because I think it's a good starting place of, hey, do you want a thought every month? Do what would you like? But other times you can do that personal invitation. My wife taught a bereavement class once upon a time, and the bereavement class, basically, if somebody has died, somebody's passed on close to that person, you go to this class, and part of it's coping and processing and all this. And one of the things that she taught in that class was, you can have a friend for different purposes. So you can have,
Ooh,
if
what
I
does she
just
mean by
want to
that?
vent, you just want to vent. You got that one person who will listen, judgment free, no advice, just listen and say, wow, I understand. And then you have the other friend that you go, you know what, this guy, he's kind of my fast running friend. That's what I want right now. I just want to cruise, maybe have a conversation, my fast running friend. All right, here you go. Now let's go, and they're more than likely be happy to do that. But you kind of have like an arsenal of,
And that wasn't me, by the way. I was
friends.
not the fast running friend.
Absolutely. You were the fastest person.
Oh, man.
So it's like, I kind of feel like I'm really struggling with my kids right now. Life is so incredibly hard. I don't know what to do with my kids. You know what? There's that one friend that does have the kids, and he usually has some pretty sound advice. Let me go to him. And so you kind of build up, your tool belt of people that you can reach out to.
This is really interesting. The thing that I'm gathering from this is that I just need to be a more interesting person first, and then invite people into those interests. Right? I think that
Well,
I need to play more games.
I don't know if
I need
that's
to
it,
do
though.
more activities. No, I mean, I think that like a lot of Elders Quorum, like, men, they just don't do a whole lot. They go to work, they go home, they watch Netflix, they go to bed. I think that's a problem with men nowadays, is that we don't engage in things that interest us. And if you don't have interests, it's hard for people to engage you in your interests, right?
But here's like one of the things, if a combined thing, shows, I don't watch movies or TV shows. And so if you came to me at church and said, hey, have you seen the new? I would say, no, stop. I haven't seen any shows ever. So we could not have that connection, but there might be 50 other guys that have seen the same series, the same show, the same music, that whatever, but that's the tie-in that you guys would have. I couldn't have that. I can't hold that. I mean, Hayden has his LARPing guild that he loves and connects with all the time. That, hey,
that's dadsneedfriends.com.
I can't do that. I don't have that connection. I am a terrible LARPer, but it's, it works. And so you find that connection. And I think it's just small little conversations that you can have with different individuals. I think really good questions are extremely valuable. So even if you have 10 seconds with someone in the hall at church, you do the come up with some question, and hopefully you know them. There's a little bit of a base there before you go up to them and you're like, what's the most difficult thing you've done in the past week? Dude, I don't even know you, so hopefully there's some sort of a base friendship there, or at least they know who you are, you know their name, and you ask some, about the weather, not about whatever it is, but tell me
that's something that I noticed.
learned.
Like in the comments, there was this vein of comments that was something more along the lines of like, hey, the current ministering program assumes a base level of friendship among the quorum. Whereas like, I think perhaps, and the suggestion was maybe we take a step back and maybe we just need to become friends with the other elders in the quorum before we can become efficient and effective ministers to those brethren. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, you and I we didn't really know each other too well, but you came out, you gave me an invite. I hesitantly accepted the invite, and then we started. We became friends, and they got to a point, where, like, I mean, once you're running together, you can do anything together, and like we got pretty comfortable around each other. We shared a lot of laughs at really early hours of the morning.
I like it. But, the other, it's therapy sessions too, because, I guess I see this, that you guys have brushed on so many times, that all of us men, we're not the dumb Homer Simpson that just sits in front of the couch and drinks beer all day. And there's nothing in here. Like, we have thoughts, we have feelings, we have a lot of wisdom to share. Don't just keep us quiet and shove us in the corner. Like there's plenty of there to share with each other as well. These are like the conversations that we had, these early morning ones. I mean, very meaningful. Some of them just funny stories. And other times it's like crying out for help. Like, am I doing the right thing for every year on my birthday? I typically run my age in miles. So I have this little, this group. So, last year, 41 years old, and I ran 41 miles around the high school track. But anyways, part of that.
And I would tell him, you're not doing the right thing. That's not the right thing to do.
No. Absolutely stupid idea. It was stupid. Right. But like, I specifically remember one individual that was there. It was just him and I. It was like 2:30 in the morning. One other dude and me. And we got chatting. We started talking about struggles with mental health. Both of us, within a half-hour conversation, were like bearing each other's souls, and we were crying. It was just him and I in the dark. We're both crying. And I'm like, this is a really heavy, helpful moment right now. What made this happen is our thing, our movement, our running, our being together. But it happened. That event, made it happen. So could that possibly happen in other venues if running is not involved? And I guess it just depends on your comfort level. Could you actually say to your next door neighbor, hey, do you want to go for a walk tonight? Depends, I guess, on your relationship, but just having that connection with a neighbor, with your ministering friends. But kind of back to, go ahead.
And this is all about like just organic ministry. So this isn't really even assigned ministering. This is just like, hey, if you notice someone in your ward, because what we've realized, Tanner and I, is that that we almost have to tell the men of the church that you need to go make a friend. If not for the social benefits, for as an insurance policy, and for your mental and emotional benefits, you need a friend, because you can't necessarily just think that you can muscle through life alone. Like, guys, I think that's been the stigma so far, and I think that's led to a pretty dark place, and that's why we see some statistics the way that they land. But right now, I think when I think of like organic ministering, what I'm learning from you is it's just keeping your ears always up, just constantly listening. Your radar is constantly pinging. And if somebody says like, hey, boom, I've got a shared interest over here, then you're just like, okay, boom, you and me, we're gonna connect a lifeline to each other. We're gonna start running together and establish that connection.
I think the other important thing is you're listening to the Spirit, because the Spirit can tell you certain things. Like, if some name pops in your head that you're like, how is this person doing? Don't give it a second thought. Maybe send a quick text. Just thinking about you, or you send them a really awful dad joke, and that's all you do. Here's your dad joke.
Yeah.
It's just,
And you've got plenty of
it's
those.
a connection.
Yeah.
Oh, I do. Yeah, too many.
So if anyone needs help with dad jokes, just reach out to Josh
I'm
Connor.
your
He's
guy.
got plenty of them. Yeah.
Too many. But like, that's the connection, is like, I think the Spirit just told you, maybe reach out to this person, and you just quick little text, hey, just thinking about you. I hope you're having a good day. Sometimes it's very simple, or I just saw that you got new shoelaces yesterday. Very cool, dude. Just some
now this
little connection.
Yeah.
This is great because Tanner and I were raised introverts. Both of us were indoor enthusiasts, as you know, and more introverted. And so it's fascinating to get into the mind of an extrovert, somebody that enjoys being around people, someone who gets excited and energized when they're around people. Because usually for me, I mean, it's like after about 30 minutes, I'm like, I'm about done. I can't handle anymore. You know, I start just, my energy levels start tanking. I'm like, I need to go take a nap or something like that. But I love the fact that you're so open and willing to talk about how you see things and how these opportunities, because like for me, I mean, I don't know that necessarily I see brothers in the ward, or if someone comes to mind, my knee-jerk reaction is like, oh no, I better not. You know, it's the nice guy voice comes out. Oh no, I'm sure he's busy and I better not, you know, but I love, I love that we can now just say like, no, let's just reach out. Just don't overthink it. Adopt the extroverted mindset and say, you know what, just reach out. Worst case scenario, they say you're weird, you know, and you move on.
And you say, great, whatever, I don't care.
Tell me something I don't know.
Absolutely fine. Right.
Well, and I think that you laid out a really great formula for it, because you start by like saying, ask interesting questions, which bypasses the canned conversation, right? How are you doing? Oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Don't forget to ask if you need anything. You bypass all of that, and you make those small connection points, which will later open the door when you want to invite them to do an activity with you. And I think it's really impressive that you continually invite people. Like I've invited people once or twice, and people invited me once, you know, and I've rescheduled or said I was busy, and things just disappear. They just fizzle out. So like continual invitations, like being relentless almost in a positive way, and asking those interesting questions is a recipe for like a really positive interaction.
Excellent, let's explore that for a little bit. So those questions, I mean, you're basically subverting the script. Like everyone has the script, you know, like, oh, how you doing? Good. Awesome. Well, it's good seeing you. Great. Yep. See you later. It's good seeing you. Yeah. And so by saying like, hey, what's the hardest thing you did this week? They're going to be like, it's going to catch them off guard a little bit. They're going to be like, I don't know.
Or I think there's questions like, have you listened to any good audio? Have you listened or read to any good audio, you know, any books lately? You heard any good podcasts? Have you ever heard of Salty Saints?
Hey, there we go.
You know, but just little things.
We spoke to Josh before this.
Oh yeah. My shirt's coming in the mail, but it's, you know, I absolutely love that you can reach out with the, I guess, the essay question, the non-standard. So how's your week been? I love asking, what's something that you've learned in the last couple of weeks? A paradigm shift, anything that you go, wow, you know what? I did hear this one quote that, wow, it's really changed how I feel, how I talk to, how I did interact with everyone. This is a really powerful one. And you have that connection. Because like what you guys have talked about in the past of Elders Quorum, why are we, you know, the failed Elders Quorum, why are we afraid to open up in Elders Quorum? Why are we afraid to kind of ask very difficult questions or even comment? Maybe you don't feel safe doing that. You know, you don't, well, this other guy behind me is a lot smarter than I am, so I'm not going to talk. It's vulnerable. You know, it's the vulnerability that when you talk to others, that can break down. Because you're like, I know all those people that just spoke, they're human just like me. And it opens it up. You know, you're a little better that way. So
it sounds like you have a unique gift of waking people up out of NPC mode. You know, I feel like you're surrounded.
Hey, Josh doesn't play very many video games. So for those who are not gamers, can you explain what an NPC is?
Yeah.
An NPC is a non-playable character, someone who's on a programmed path, right?
Oh, I actually
So-
heard MTC, and I know what that is. Okay.
Oh, hey,
yeah,
there you go.
I have-
No, NPC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, you play a video game. There's a bunch of characters that nobody's playing. They're just bots. There's robots in the game. They have programmed responses. You can only engage in a limited scope with them, right? And I feel like we all slide into that sometimes in our lives. You go to church, you say all the right things, you have all the right conversations, you go home. Same thing at work. How's your weekend? Oh, it was fine. But it seems like Josh is really good at flipping the sentient button on people at Switch and just like turning on their brains and saying, like, what's the most interesting thing that you learned this last week? I don't have a script for that. I have to turn on my brain and actually think, right? I have to like wake up out of NPC mode and actually engage as a character, as a player in this game of life. So I think that was really cool that you're able to like pinpoint people and kind of wake them up a little bit with those questions. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's those
thank you.
questions, and then you're combining that with these relentless invitations. So you're constantly inviting people. You don't get discouraged. I feel like if my wife and I invite people over and they turn us down once, twice, maybe even 3 times, at a certain point, we start to turn into like jaded cops where we're just like, forget them. I don't, I've lost all faith in humanity. They don't deserve this. I'll eat all this ice cream myself. I like eating it by myself better anyways. I don't need them, And so I think like constantly giving these invites, you're constantly giving opportunities for people to reach out, open up and say, all right, yeah, I'll connect with you, and by shaking things up, you're not just saying like, I'm only going to connect with you if you're a runner. You're like, hey, you want to go rucking? You want to go to the temple? You want to go out to eat? I'm there for you. And you're just constantly extending those invitations. I love that.
But I got a question for you guys, and kind of far out there, but I think there is some sort of, I don't know, ebbs and flows of how extroverted or introverted you feel. I swear when we were married, it was like once a month, I would kind of get the bug and be like, let's go do something with another couple. And then it was like that bucket, that sociable bucket was full. And then I'm like, we're good.
Yeah.
For the next month or quarter or what. Do you guys feel that way? That there's something out there? There's like some cyclical, I don't know, maybe it's
some hormonal thing going on, with the moon patterns. Yeah.
With definitely connected to the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, my social cycle is on the decades now. It's
okay. That's fair.
It's expanded. Yeah. So, but no, I think you're definitely right on that. You have like, there's that social battery mentality. Like, oh yeah, it either charges you up or it drains you. And most of the time, I feel like it's draining to be around people. But there are certain situations, or when I'm doing certain things, where it's actually I feel really recharged after that. So maybe what we need to do is we need to find those things and lean into them and engage
now here's
in those activities.
Like the really interesting piece is like what is really draining for me is like when home teachers would come over with the Leahona and I would have to wrangle my kids and like keep them, sitting still and being reverent, and like, shh, he's trying to read something. He's got some paper slips out. Hurry, everyone, just listen, and then he reads the slips and then he's just like, and then he asks like, do you guys need anything? And then a kid throws a toy right at my eye and I'm just like, no, we're good. We're fine. Please just get out,
I'm fine.
And then they leave. And then everyone is just like, we're done. We can't take this anymore, and that's the beauty of the ministering program. And this is one of the things, another thing that I saw in there is like, there are a handful of brethren that are like, I don't know why we are completely assigning brethren to watch over all of the families in the ward and not just ministering to the brothers like the sisters just minister to the sisters. But and I understand it's in the handbook and stuff like that, so I don't want to have to flip my tie on this one or anything, but it seems like if you were just ministering to the brother, just focusing on the brother, that you would by proxy be ministering to the family as well. Because like if you're able to find a way to connect with that brother and do things with him that energizes him, and maybe it is just walking, because like if I can get away from, the house, the kids, and just into an environment where I can say things to different people without necessarily worrying like, oh, how's my wife going to respond if I tell her like, crap's going on at work, and is she going to start freaking out? And is that going to add more to my plate, and is that going to be stressful, or should I just bottle that up? But if I'm able to tell that to somebody as I'm like, running with them at like 4 o'clock in the morning, slamming burgers. Maybe maybe that changes the game a little bit. As I'm puking up burgers on the side of the road, maybe I'm like, you know what? Life isn't that hard.
It's a good opportunity.
Things aren't that bad. Yeah.
Well, I do have one. I guess this is a success ministering opportunity. There's a brother in our ward, 82 years old, Brother Bennett. He's a stellar guy. He was standing on. He did something. He hurt himself like pretty bad. Needed surgery, so he couldn't raise his arms like past like a 45-degree angle. Right. So he's just going around his house. He couldn't shave. So this guy, clean shaven, started having this beard. Well, once upon a time, I heard that we're bringing this up in Elders Quorum, but somebody said, he and his wife went to the temple every week for like 35 years. And I'm like, whoa. Holy cow, that's so inspiring. Wow. So he was at home. He couldn't even come to church at that point. He was still kind of recovering from his surgery. But I just sent him a quick text and said, thank you for being an example. This is what was shared today. Kudos to you and your wife for being so faithful and going to the devil. And, that was it. And then about 2 hours later, it was, hey, can you come to my house and change some batteries in a smoke detector? This thing's been beeping forever, and I am not in any shape to go step on this little stool and lean up. And you're, malnourished and really lanky. He didn't say that, but my own thoughts there. Come on. Oh, I can do that. Hey,
it was implied.
It was implied. Yeah. So I went over there. I brought my boys over there. I helped him with it. Great. Another week goes by. Hey, I need these pictures down here, and I need you to da-da-da-da. And he had like a list of things for me to do. I brought both my boys over. So now we have a service opportunity, which is fantastic. I helped him, but we also were able to chat. And so I'm looking around his house and we made a lot of connections. It's, hey, tell me about this family member right here on the wall, or tell me about whatever. All of a sudden, this 82-year-old and myself and my boys were all bonding. And I don't know how this happened, but it was like once or twice a week for, 2 months, 3 months. Like I was constantly going over there. I just get the text from him. Anytime, within the next couple of days, he's got a flagpole. He always flies different nationality out there, and he wanted his flags organized. And so I just sat down with him in his garage, and it was, okay, here's the Samoan flag. That's for this month. And I need this one over here. This is the African flag that goes there. And this one flies in this. Anyways, like I helped him with these little projects, but I think it was just, was I assigned to him? No. But I did reach out and give him a thanks and a kudos. And that probably just got his mind thinking of, hey, this guy does live close to me and he could help. So both my boys and I, we're closer with him now. Doesn't call as much, but still the connection's there.
Yeah. And he's in a completely different stage of life, completely different demographic, And so I think that's fantastic that it's not just, young guys hanging out, or anything like that. It's like, this can work across, you can cross all the borders, with an approach where you are just constantly just sending text messages, sending invites, just thinking about people and saying like, I don't need a ministering assignment to tell me to reach out to you. I'm just going to go ahead and just reach out.
I like the fact that you hit on service, because while not everyone will have shared interests with you, absolutely everyone needs help. Like with something somewhere, right? It's almost a certainty that everyone could use some help in some facet. So service is almost always a great way to bridge those gaps.
No, absolutely is. And one of the things that this kind of goes back to my wife's, the class that she taught, this idea of different people having these different, different strengths. One of the things you can do is you can offer specific things to certain people. So even if you go over to the whatever house that you're going to, the assigned house, I'm not going to say, is there anything I can do for you? I might say, well, I do have this background. I'm the best knitter in the world. If you need a sweater, I could knit you one. And also I can cook really good this. So I can deliver pies to you, or, it's specific things that here's what I can do for you, instead of just kind of an open,
ooh, I like that.
An open invite of,
that's awesome.
Well, you need anything?
Yeah.
Peace.
That's the
I'm out.
NPC script. Yeah, that's just like hey, I just want to check out. I'm done. This is how we say goodbye in our culture. It's
Reach out if you need
let me
anything.
know if there's anything you need.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. All right. Well, what would your advice be for, let's say there's a father in the ward who's looking to have more friends. He's struggling. Maybe he's been inviting a couple of people and nobody seems to be reciprocating. What's your advice to a guy like that?
Man, I think keep trying. It's tough to get shut down so many times, but eventually you get a taker. You get yeah, why not? I asked my brother-in-law about this. I said, when it comes to Elders Quorum activities, because you guys brought that up in one of your podcasts, one of your shows. What about the Elders Quorum activity? You used to be playing pickleball, right? He's like, look, if it was a shooting activity, I would absolutely go to it. If it was golf, I wouldn't show up. I just would not show up at all. Yeah. If it was bowling, he's like, I'm 50-50. I'd probably show up to that one. But I think the point is you got that activity. Maybe it's not the right one for that person. And so maybe it's, hey, let's, you know what? Can we plan like in 2 weeks, a little us four go bowling? Great. Or, there's the kite festival. Can we get both of our families? Let's go check that thing out. Never been to it. Let's see what it's about. We'll go visit the venue. Hey, we'll check it out. But just, I guess, either reaching out, or even if that's a little too much and you're like, you know what, I'm not ready for that much bonding. I don't even ever want that much bonding. Just the reaching out, talking to someone, asking questions. We all like talking about ourselves, of course. So it's just going to that person that you don't know in the ward and saying, hey, tell me about this. What brought you to St. George? Or, hey, you're, little conversations like that can help bond the ward, bond the neighborhood.
Well, it's fascinating because I think from a scriptural perspective, you're actually following the example of the Savior who went out to a bunch of different people. He didn't just go to fishermen and call fishermen only to be his disciples. Like, he was going out to tax collectors. He was going out to architects. He was going out to zealots. He went out to everybody and he just extended invitations. And it seems like that's kind of the formula. That's your go-to right there, which I think is phenomenal.
Yeah. But not a comfortable, or maybe, as natural as you could make it, as Hayden says,
Well, there's a reason they call it the work of the Lord, right? So, yes. It's not called the comfort of the Lord. Yeah.
Right. No, but it helps. We need more of it. I think us as men, we need more of that reaching out. We need more of the connection between us. And I think a lot of things are moving forward. We're all going in the right direction. And by the way, in our ward, due to the suggestion that you guys had on your Elders Quorum of having an email go out, a random email not tied to your name with what concerns or questions do you have, completely anonymous. We have implemented that. Like, we are being helped. Like, progress is happening. And I think some of it will still take time. Some of the bonding, the walls, the false traditions of our fathers will be broken down over time. Yeah. And as we kind of, I guess, question, explore different areas, explore what we need, what should be done.
That's awesome. Yeah, I guess Tanner and I will just keep having more conversations then. That's great. Yeah.
Keep whining and griping. Yep.
To summarize it all, it's just to follow the Josh Connor model, which is really the Savior's model of organic ministering. It's all about extending those invitations relentlessly. And it's about subverting the script. It's about asking unique questions to break them out of the script and get to know them a little bit better so that you can form actual friendship. So I think that's it as far as time goes. Until next time, I'm Hayden Holm. This is Tanner. We've got Josh Connor. This is Salty Saints.